So lately I've been reading in the Bible, 1st and Kings, 1st and Chronicles, and it's fascinating. Two different accounts of the same story. Main takeaway that I've gotten recently is it talks about these kings, and many kings were evil and set up idols and worshipped local idols, had an Asherah pole, that kind of stuff. But there were four kings that started out great. Four kings: David, Solomon, Hezekiah, Josiah. And the one thing all four of them have in common, but they all slipped toward the end. David, of course, slept with Bathsheba, and I believe that one of the reasons that he wasn't able to build the temple was because he slept with Bathsheba, and then what's worse, had Uzziah, Bathsheba's husband, killed so that he could marry her. And then Solomon was given so much. He was the wealthiest man who ever lived, and he was the wisest man who ever lived, according to the Bible. He was given the task of building the temple, and he did a wonderful job of that. But he really faded at the end. He started marrying foreign women, especially queens from neighboring kingdoms, and that is expressly prohibited in Deuteronomy and in Leviticus. And then you had Hezekiah, who started out great, and the Bible says there was no king before or after like him, but toward the end he started slipping. And because of the things that he did and allowed to happen in his kingdom, he was told by the prophet that it wouldn't happen during his lifetime, but during his kid's lifetime, Israel would be banished to Babylon. And he said, well, that's okay, because it won't happen during my lifetime. I mean, who says that? And then Josiah probably slipped the least of all of them. He was amazing. He read the law, and he tore his clothes when he realized that Israel was far, 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 far away from following what had been ordained from them in Leviticus and the Pentateuch. But even at the end, Josiah died a ignominious death. There was one of the opposing kings, non-Israelite kings, said, give me passage through your land. God has told me that you need to give me passage. And that was true. God had ordained that he was going to have passage. And Josiah said no, and went out to fight him and said, I'm not going to give you passage. He was mortally wounded, and he died a few days later in his chariot. So all four of them had great beginnings, great middles. They finished poorly, and they frittered away many of the blessings, much of the great standing that they had before in the beginning, in the middle of their time. The message that I have taken away, and I want to tell myself, is make sure you finish strong. Finish strong. You may have a great beginning, you may have a great middle, but finish strong. This is what I'm telling myself, and I encourage you. Finish strong.